Live all the way from North Hollywood, California, it's the Stuff with Nick! Special guest tonight, Thai Rivera! And now, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Guerra! Yeah! Hey, how you doing? Hey, welcome! So glad that everybody's here watching. I had a blast in San Francisco this weekend. It was quite raining. Survived. Yeah, didn't have to pull out my boat. So yeah, guys, I am so excited about tonight's first episode that we've never done this. I've never done it, guys. I've never done this. Anybody? So very happy to have our guest here. It's very hard to get him. Because he's a very busy guy, always on demand. You guys might recognize him from his most hated comments on Facebook. Please, round of applause for Thai Rivera, everybody. Thai Rivera. Yeah, here comes Thai. Oh man.
Notice how half of the applause stopped as I walked out.
Yeah.
So
this is the only talk show where you have to be your own audience member.
yeah.
Hold on, Ty. This is a very classy interview, so let me get you a cup real quick. Let's just.
But this is what I wore.
Yeah, I know.
Mine.
That's your everyday apparel.
Like kinda.
Yeah. Man, Ty. So, gosh, you just all over Facebook. You are quite the villain on Facebook.
Yeah, it's turned into that, which is kind of weird for me because I don't think about it as deep as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm bored on the road because that's where like a lot of, if people would like pay attention to what I'm doing and not just what I post.
The funny thing is that they don't read it in your voice.
But,
And you have to read your status in your voice.
yeah, that's what Chris Newberg just said the other day. I saw him at Comedy Magic Club, and he was like, I love all of your posts because I read them in your voice. And I was like, that's exactly the way
You have to imagine you with Bijou and Jerry,
Yeah.
laptop open, they have their glasses on, they're kind of supervising the entire thing, and you're like, time to hate.
Yeah, not caring even a little bit.
Putting down the grinder for a second, putting this down.
Yeah, the grinder is right here. Yeah.
So what goes into the process of a Thai Rivera comment? Like you were talking about earlier, you look at the logic that these people are throwing out, and you're like, let me rip them apart with logic.
Yeah, because what a lot of people do, too many people are too emotional.
Yeah.
So like that's the first place people mess up with me. And like people think I'm joking about it, but the truth is I just don't have a lot of the same emotion that people have. I just don't. I look at things in more of an analytical way. So like when I see something, I'm like, okay, this is the way. Like take for example Trump, and not to go into like politics.
Whoa! It's gonna get juicy, guys.
Take that for example. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are caught up on like, you know, oh, he's so racist and you know that kind of stuff, and that's all they can see. But like, you know, they don't realize I grew up in Arizona at a time when racism was a lot more open. Even if you go to Arizona now, which I love being in Arizona, but if you go to Arizona now, you'll notice that people are nothing like what they are in LA. Like people say whatever they want to say, and they don't think about, you know, is this politically correct? Is it?
They're not worried about destroying their career.
No, they're not thinking about that kind of stuff. So people just say whatever they want to say. And so I'm more used to that, where people in LA are more like, you know, what's the right thing to say?
Yeah.
You know, so when you take that into account, the fact that, you know, I was raised around pretty constant racism, you know, just sort of lingering all the time.
Yeah.
And then now, you know, there's
Just
a Donald
persistent.
Trump situation. And then people always throw at me, which I think this is racist, when people throw at me, your family's going to have to go back if they... And
Oh yeah, that is completely racist.
yeah.
One of the worst racist thoughts in America is that illegal means Mexican.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people don't get about that situation. Like when Trump said what he said, I understand that it's racist to like a certain part of the population. But I also think of it in the way that it's racist to, or it's offensive to a part of the population that technically isn't supposed to be here. So it's almost like if you were to break in my house, hide under my bed and then get offended about what you heard while you were hiding under my bed. Well, nobody told you to be in my house in the first place. So
okay, all right. I like that.
So
logic.
don't get offended about the stuff you hear when you're just.
If you're illegal, you don't have the constitutional right to be offended.
Yeah, you're a stowaway.
Well, and you know what? There's something nice about being the stowaway. You know, Titanic.
Yeah.
DiCaprio was a stowaway. You think?
And look what happened to him in the end. Rose was like,
goodbye.
Yeah, she didn't build a wall. She just
took him to the middle of the ocean and let him go.
Yeah, that was inhumane.
That was.
But people call that a love story. Donald Trump does it. Suddenly he's racist.
This is great stuff. This is great. We're gonna come back, guys, with Thai Rivera. We're gonna have to fix up the set. But we'll be we'll be right back.
Fancy. I wonder who's gonna handle that. That was so great.
We're back.
It's such a production around here.
Thank
I never
you.
realized how professional it would be once I got here.
I'm very professional as much as I can be. Do you like the curtains? I went out and picked these out.
Yeah, no, it's great.
You know, I was trying to pick a color that would highlight our face.
Yeah, no, and it looks great. I mean,
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Not that I've seen the playback or anything. Not that I'm paying attention like that. But as Kelsey's showing us on Snapchat what it is,
How it looks.
I'm like, I hadn't realized how annoying your life is.
It's so interesting. Snapchat. Have you gotten into that?
No, I'm not Snapchat.
I cannot get into it.
You know, I have honestly accepted that I'm an old man.
Yeah.
You know, like some people are like trying to hold on to that, like I'm young or whatever.
Yeah.
And then people will tell me that, like, you know, well, you still look young or stuff like that. And I appreciate it, but I know exactly how old I am and I've lived every day of this life. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to pretend to be, you know, like, oh, I'm a kid or.
Yeah. Like, I'm hip. I've got this down.
Yeah, I mess with stuff because I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm doing the Facebook Live lately.
Yeah, a lot of that.
That's fun.
How's that working for you?
It's actually going pretty well because now people are getting a lot less offended by the things I say. I noticed that I can say the same things that I already put on Facebook, but it doesn't get nearly the negative feedback because of exactly what we said.
Yeah.
People are hearing it.
They're hearing
in my
it.
voice.
They're not reading it in their own way.
Yeah, and
because people read it in their own way.
Well, my Facebook bio, because you know how they have that little bio now, and it used to have that. My Facebook bio like says, "Don't assign your emotions to my words, and we'll be fine."
Whoa, very poetic.
Thank you,
man.
But it is the way I feel. Like,
do you want that on your tombstone?
I'd like a little wiggle room on that. I don't decide just yet what's going to be on my tombstone.
Don't tread on me.
Yeah, if on the way home I should die, like, but, you know, I don't want to be like, I know exactly what he wanted, and then like that's on my tombstone now. Just like, wait, I sent my parents a quote. You know, like,
nope, already chiseled, handled.
I wanted my Twitter bio to be. It's 140 characters. It'll fit. It won't be too expensive.
So funny. Do you want us to take molds of your hands so that we can put it on your tombstone so people can come and touch your hands?
My shoes.
Your shoes.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know which pair yet, but my shoes, so that people can like, ew.
They can put them on.
Almost like the Ice House used to have that wall with the shoes on it. Like that's what I.
They put on your shoes and they feel a little rock. No wonder he was always pissed. Someone has to come and always put a rock in there.
And there's a person there that stands there, and their job is literally just to be like, he wasn't pissed, you guys. He wasn't pissed.
Yes, he may have been annoyed. That's funny.
That's the biggest thing, though. Like, if I clear anything up on any podcast or, you know, like...
Clear it up.
Honestly, that is the biggest thing people need to know about me, is I'm not mad. Mm-hmm. I'm not, you know, I am grouchy. You know, I admit that. I don't try to deny that. But I'm not mad. I'm not angry about anything. I don't hate people, you know, like, even, like, with what I said about immigrants just a few minutes ago, like, you know, that's part just being funny, because that's part of what we do.
What we do.
Yeah.
We see all sides.
Yeah, and then part of it is, like, you know, in your frustrated thoughts, this is what you think, because I realized the other day I was saying something the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
The way I've been saying things is I always tell people I live in an El Salvadorian neighborhood, which technically is not true. I live in an American neighborhood that's heavily populated by El Salvador.
We went there. It felt like we should be checked for fruits and vegetables coming into LA.
We were still in LA was the problem, though.
But like
it's
they should have
true.
stopped us and said you can't bring seeds from Thai's
Yeah,
neighborhood.
open up the trunk of the car. We're
Into the
gonna
rest
need to
of
make
LA.
sure nobody.
Let's see here.
Yeah, but like, you know, there are certain things like, and this is where I think, like, you know, being Latino, we allow ourselves to say this kind of stuff. Like, technically anybody can say it, and I think if more people were honest about this stuff, then we wouldn't have a lot of the resentment that goes on in this country. Because I think a lot of times what gets called racism is actually a resentment. You know, because people do feel a certain amount of resentment because, like, you know, even when it comes to, like, take Latino against Latino. Like, some people are upset because some Latinos lean towards the right, you know, they're Republicans, and people are like, you know, well, how could they do that and stuff like that. Well, what people forget is that Latinos that come here legally, whether they're Mexican, El Salvadorian, whatever, when they come here legally, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So then they have somebody come here illegally, which is also expensive, but it's not nearly as expensive as the real process. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So those people come in, and then they're kind of in the same spot, or in some cases kind of ahead of the other people in line that have already paid a lot of money. So it gives them a bit of resentment because they're like, okay, well, why did I waste my time doing this through proper channels when all I had to do was sneak in the trunk of a car? And now, you know what I mean? Like,
I get you.
be
No,
in the
completely.
same spot.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Which is just the way life is.
Yeah. Well, I agree.
Because that's the way that's the battle between the 99%, the 1%. That's the battle between the boss's son getting hired versus the guy that was doing 20 years. Everybody's always like, why this?
Or stand-up. Like, because, you know, I've been doing stand-up for 13 years now, and I know some people come in and they right away skyrocket because they're either popular on Vine, and they don't have, like, the 45 minutes or whatever. I don't build up resentment about that because I kind of went in knowing that could happen. Like, when I first started doing stand-up, that's when Angela Johnson took off. And I think, like, as far as comedy went, she was the first YouTube sensation.
Yeah.
Like, you know, really went from open micer to just skyrocketing.
And her video still gets shared like crazy.
I know, yeah. I mean, like, it just...
And she's a complete sweetheart.
Yeah.
Guys, don't think that we're knocking Angela.
Well, that's what gets on my nerves when people
Is that when you say something, you say a name like, oh, why are you saying that name? It's like, look.
Yeah, they get like, you're just hating. No, nobody's hating.
Do you see the heart? This is all from love.
Yeah. Complete love. It glows.
Yeah, okay.
But like Angela, like I knew her. I was there when Angela did her, just by happenstance. I was there when she did her graduating show from her comedy class.
Okay.
Like I've known Angela from the very beginning. Like I remember we did a show for DJ Cooch.
Yeah.
Where Angela and I had to pick her up from Glendale where she was living at the time, and then we drove out to like Paris. California, that is.
Well, yeah, you can't drive to Paris.
Yeah, I didn't want people to get like, this guy's lying.
Wait
he
a
drove
minute.
to Paris with Angela Johnson.
This is quite the yarn of a tale.
Yeah, he's a name dropper and he's trying to lie to us about driving to Paris. Oh yeah, he drove to Paris.
Which, you know, if anybody could, a gay man could drive to Paris.
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to take a drive to
I
Paris.
could drive to Paris if I wanted to. I could get us to Paris.
Yeah.
AJ.
A lot of people don't know.
Angela.
Gay men's cars float, so they do
Yeah,
on the water.
I'm wearing an ascot.
Let's
Little
go,
sailor
Angela.
hat I've got under my seat and like,
Immediately just sails pop up.
come on, Ange. But yeah, no, I remember like on that car ride, she was telling me that she was going to be taking a couple of meetings, and you know, like it was at the beginning of when the YouTube clip was just taking off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I saw that happen when I was first starting out, and I saw what haters the people around us turned into. And since I knew what a nice girl she is or was, you know what I mean, I didn't really get it. You know, I was just sort of like, well, you know, we're all kind of dealt a different deck, and we all got to make our own way.
That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all going to have the same route at the end.
Yeah.
And you can't have somebody else's route. It's like when people are like, oh man, so-and-so got that. Well, hey, guess what? It was never offered to you. Most people don't realize that when they're looking at everybody else's trail, you're wasting time not looking at your own. That's why it's slower for you.
Whether it's comedy, whether it's, you know, like we're just talking about immigration, whether it's politics, whether it's any of that stuff, it's people building up different resentments. And a lot of times I don't have time to build that up because, like, you know, people complain about the 1%, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I personally am just trying to get to be part of the 1%. So if I just keep working that struggle, you know what I mean? I don't have time to...
Anytime someone asks me what do I want out of this, I want to be invited to a Illuminati party.
Oh, yeah!
Not, you know, and not know it is. You know, like, they just invite me and I didn't quite know. I'm like... And then they ask me to leave before they bring out the goat's heads.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? You know, like, oh, we got Nick here. Hey, I've heard lots of good
I'm
things.
wearing my mask.
Yeah, you're wearing your mask. Hey, Ty, good to see you.
You know what I mean?
And then you warn me, leave at 9:30. I'm like, what? Why? You just go. Leave at 9:30. Trust me. I'm like, oh, funny, man.
Don't get caught up in this.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
get on out. Don't worry.
You'll end up like Cat Williams, and next week you see me naked on TMZ. You know?
Oh man, like no, they got him. They got Ty. It's so funny, man, because I had a buddy that recently moved from Denver to here, you know, a comedy buddy, and I was like, so how long you been here? And he's like, oh, yeah, I've been here about 5 months. I'm like, okay, well, you got 2 more months to make it huge, or it's going to take 15 years.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, like that's it, man. You've got this 7-month time frame.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to have to be schlubbing it with the rest of us.
Yeah, and you might as well settle in. Like, the other day I had somebody arguing with me on Facebook, and they were trying to, like, you know, they thought they were going for the jugular. And they were like, you know, well, who are you and what have you done? And so, like, you know, I'm like, I'm perfectly comfortable with where I am. You know, like, I've got some TV credits. I work the road all the time, sometimes more than I want to. And, you know, like, would I like to get ahead and be further? Yes, definitely. But am I mad right now? Do I feel like I haven't had enough shots? No, I don't feel like that at all. And technically, I'm even honest with myself, and this is another place where I think other people could kind of benefit. I'm honest with myself about the times that I've fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, about the times that I've kind of squandered an opportunity that was presented to me. Mm-hmm. You know, and sometimes it's not on purpose. Sometimes it's just like I'm not at the right point in my life. Like we did Big Sky together.
Yes.
And I was a mess.
Yeah, well.
At Big Sky.
You told me never to talk about it.
Yeah, but
you had me sign a blood contract.
Yeah, we're fine to chat about it a little bit, you know, because
you got a little crazy.
Yeah, I got a lot crazy. You know, I mean, I admit that. I'm very honest with myself about, you know, like how that situation all played out. And I think that's the only way to really grow from things. You know what I mean?
I'll just say you don't want to see Ty standing on top of a bed giving you rules.
Oh no. I don't even remember that part, but I know it happened.
You went to the highest point of the room.
I've been told.
If you could have been in the corner floating. Look, guys, here's the deal.
I've been told. I've heard this. Yeah, but like, you know, even that situation, like, you know, there's a part of me that feels like it was not the best thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But there's also a part of me that feels like it was important for my personal growth for that kind of, because I would call that a breakdown. You know, like what happened that whole weekend was a breakdown. Like, and I don't make excuses for it, but I know that there were reasons for it, you know, like. Yeah.
Well, you were very consistent on the road, and I remember we talked about it, you had been away from home for a bit.
Yeah.
You had just done the Las Vegas thing, you had just done that. And it's funny, like, as much fun as people think traveling and this is, it wears you down.
Yeah, and I had been engaged before that, and my engagement like had broken up in September, and we were doing that in October. And it was like last night I was talking about this with a friend. Like the way it played out with my engagement was I'm technically the one that broke it off, and then the person I was with kept me to it. You know, and so it was kind of like that thing where like I kind of thought I was just throwing a tantrum and I would eventually get my way.
Yeah.
And then I ended up calling back a month later and thinking like, you know, oh, we'll just figure this out. And he was like, oh no, this is done. Yeah, and that happened, which I don't think I even told you this at the time, but that technically happened on the car ride when me and you were driving.
Oh no, on our 19-hour ride?
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell people everything that story.
Yeah.
I'm like, we drove out there 19 hours.
Yeah, and that happened on that
In
car
that
ride.
beautiful scenery and stuff like that. Oh, that must have been the time when you're like, can we stop? I need to get a Blimpie. You know, like you want. And I noticed you didn't order a Blimpie sandwich. I was like, why did you want to stop here, man? This is some moment for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time. I really was. You know, like people
That's
don't
insane.
get that. I really was having a hard time that
Yeah,
week. Like
yeah.
people think it was just some sort of diva trip
Just a
or
moment.
breakdown.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But
well,
there
because
was a
that's
lot.
what, like, I like to personally keep a lot of my personal life personal.
Mhm.
Said that 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is that, like, I don't want you to know everything.
Yeah.
But since this business is all about your life, people try to figure out, and we're around a bunch of analytical comics. Like,
Mhm.
oh, so what happened? Well, was he upset that he didn't make it that far? Oh, that's a petty thing to be upset about. Oh, is it because he drinks a lot? You know, like that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and the thing that people didn't realize when they would say stuff like that is I rarely drink. You know what I mean? Like, it was, like technically I had come off because I hadn't been drinking at all. And had I been at 100% mentally, I would have been able to just stick to that because it's not hard for me to not drink most of the time. But then the other thing that was going on is around October, and it gets better every year, but around October I always fall apart. And it's because, you know, and I'm, like I said, as we get further away from it, my sister died on Halloween night. We were in, you know, October, and so like being away from my family so long, being away from the dog at the time, I only had Bijou, and she was like keeping me together in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then the breakup of my engagement, and so just you know, and then the pressure also of doing a comedy.
The Big Sky thing.
Yeah, and so.
And you already won the Las Vegas one.
Yeah, and so I was just in a bad place. I think at the time also, that was like the end of me. Like now I put everything online.
Right.
You know, I'm very open about everything now. That was the last of me, and that's why I really had at that time preferred that you not talk about any of that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Because at that time I felt more like my personal life was
anytime
personal.
someone says that, I'm like, oh, okay, let's, you know, you get the initial slap on the wrist. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. And then you just stop.
Yeah.
You know, because it, being in close quarters like that, a lot of things get said, and we have to always, even though we end up joking about it, we have to know like, oh, this was just car talk.
Yeah, and then the other thing that happened was I got put in, you know, I had a roommate situation on that weekend that wasn't ideal for me, you know, and that was making it like, and it was hard for me at the time. Now I'm very quick to say stuff like that, but at the time it was hard for me. I wanted to tell the other person that was in my room, like, look, you're making what's already hard even harder.
Yeah.
You know, and then that person was adding to the kind of crazy idea, which that person tries to talk to me now when they're in LA, and I feel like I don't want to talk to you. Like you weren't nice, you weren't my friend when you had a chance to be my friend. You know, like you could have helped me out that weekend, but instead you made stuff difficult and you made it seem like I was weird in a way that I wasn't weird. Like, cause I was drunk, but here's the deal with me. Like when I'm on the road with people, I will once in a while wake the person up if we're hanging out together, or you know what I mean? Cause I was an only boy in a Mexican family, and so like I got my way a lot, and so I would just be like. Wake up my sisters and be like, hang out with me, you know.
That's funny.
It's just something I do all the time with everybody.
Well, that's the thing about going on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the other thing about when you're around comics. Guess what? That for whatever that amount of time is, yeah, you might get a little thrown off of your comfort zone. You might get this and that, but it's for that amount of time.
Yeah, and I think about that. Like as far as I go, a lot of times that's with my diet. You know, I really watch what I eat, but when I'm on the road, sometimes just to be. Not that guy that everybody's like, you know, oh, is he going to complain about where we're eating again? So instead, to go along and to make it easy, I just eat what we're going to eat.
And that's what we did
Unless
today.
it's pho.
Except for pho.
Yeah, then I'm not doing pho. I'm not. Fuck that.
Oh, man. Well, guys, we're going to come back with our last segment with Thai Rivera. Very, very interesting stuff. Thai Rivera, everybody. We'll be right back. Guys, it's Stuff with Nick, my guest, Thai Rivera, my first guest, and we're about to do the coffee wrap up. I actually made coffee. Didn't think about just putting water in here and tricking you into thinking it was coffee, I made coffee. So, and I gotta wait for it to cool down before I have a sip. So Ty.
I'm just drinking like that, you know. You're right.
You're right. Well, you.
Don't give away the behind the scenes secrets.
Coffee wrap up with Nick Guerra and Ty.
Oh yeah. So what I wanted to get or wrap up about the Big Sky thing was where I started with that is like you have to accept when it is you mess up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So whatever was going on in my personal life at that time, yes, I did mess up. What I learned from it though was that when that kind of stuff happens, no matter what I have booked, no matter what I have to have going, if it's going to be between a breakdown and taking a break, I need to be strong enough and smart enough to just say I need to take a break. Because it wouldn't have killed me to just skip Big Sky that year.
Yeah.
I just won World Series of Comedy. I didn't have to be there. It's better to give no showing than a bad showing.
Yes,
you know?
I get you. Yes.
So like that's the way I feel about that. And then like, you know, also when it comes back to like resentments, even when it comes to that, I feel like everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. So even though I may have like kind of pissed that opportunity away at the same time, I feel like, you know, I didn't. And like, you know, it made our friendship better. I think our friendship got stronger because of that, because we got very real with each other on that trip, you know, and especially on the ride back, which a lot of people don't realize that either.
Which is so crazy. What, the ride back?
Some people think like that there's still some weird thing between us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like,
that's weird.
Yeah, it's like you don't get, we're actual friends. Like we hang out. It's not like that Hollywood type
I didn't even think that. That's funny.
There's a few people that get like, you know, so you and Nick Guerra.
It's interesting that, because we kind of got in that car really just being acquaintances.
Yeah, and I did appreciate that, like, you were so willing to, like, even right after, because it was the next day and whatever, we had to get back in the car together, you know, right after you just forgave it and were like, because I was already thinking in my head, like, am I going to have to fly myself home now?
Oh,
you know what
man.
I mean? Yeah, I wasn't sure how that was going to play out, and so I appreciated that about you, that you were cool enough to just be like, you know, yeah, shit happens, and, you know, we talk about it on the ride home, and it wasn't even a long conversation. It was like, you know, maybe 30 minutes that we talked about it.
Billings.
Yeah, we were still, I remember and both of us just being like, yeah, it's cool, it happened, you know?
Yeah, man. Well, that's a part of it, you know, like, I guess I've always had that in my life, too, where I think watching it and knowing where you're at, I know that it wasn't all an attack.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then that's, a lot of the times when you're dealing with somebody, I always go 3 steps back. I'm like, okay, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it's a personal attack, you feel it. You know when it. But when it's not, it's like, no, there was these things that led up to this. I saw what happened. I saw the mistake. You know, maybe I was wrong for anything that I said, but we cleared it up. One thing I wanted to wrap up, or is there anything else that
No,
okay.
I'm good.
One thing I wanted to wrap up, and we were talking about the whole illegal and the term Latino. Is my upset with how people don't understand what Latino means. How they think it means one race.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand that that is a umbrella term for 12 or 13, 14 different ethnicities.
Yeah. You know what I think also gets confusing with that is, and I think that it's something that needs to be worked out within the Latino community, is there's so much policing of each other when it comes to being Latino, like what's this and what's that, you know, which like I think people should be able to identify however they want to identify. I had a guy call me out at a show, and he's from New York, and then he was like, any Spanish people in the audience? Any Spanish people in the audience? And like in my thinking, I don't know where anybody else thinks, but like when I hear Spanish, I think people from Spain. And so when he said, are there any Spanish people in the audience? I of course didn't clap or anything because I'm Mexican American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I didn't
I'm American Mexican.
I'm not accepting that as a boundary. Suddenly it turns into a huge argument. It's like, I said.
Go ahead.
But so he asked if there were any Spanish people in the audience, so I didn't clap. And then at that point he called me out and he was like, hey Ty, aren't you Spanish? And then I was like, I'm Mexican. And then he was like, well then why didn't you clap? And I was like, because I'm Mexican.
Yeah.
You know, and he thought like I was being an asshole or just not trying to participate in his crowd work or whatever. But like to me,
Spanish
I don't
is Spanish.
Yeah,
That's what I would do too.
identify
I'm like,
Spanish.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's not so like but you have all the infighting between Latinos when it comes to that. Like sometimes I'll just say I'm Mexican, and I assume that people, the people will just gather that I'm obviously Mexican American if I just say Mexican.
Oh, isn't it the worst when they're like, oh, well then where are you from? And I'm like, oh, from America.
Yeah.
Well, then where are your parents from? From America. I mean, do you realize that half of the country was Mexico? It's not like they kicked everybody out and then we all eventually came back in.
Yeah.
They just said, here's the line. That's it.
Yeah, that's the deal with my mom's side. My mom's side has been Arizona forever. You know what I mean? But my dad's side, my dad is first generation. So, but then when people ask me about my grandparents, well, my dad's the youngest of like 13 kids.
Yeah.
And my dad is 74 or something like that. You know what I mean? And so it's like when people ask me, well, where'd your grandparents come from? I don't know. That was forever ago that they got here. You know what I mean?
You say it, you're like, okay, well, I know. Like, I'm like, well, my grandpa's from Tamaulipas. And they're like, oh, okay, all right. And like that credit, and like...
Yeah, suddenly
so
now you're
that?
okay. Yeah.
You needed me to go all the way deep into that?
Uh-huh. And because I look Asian, the thing that I get, and I do a joke about it, but it's true, I get people trying to trick me into being Asian. Like by asking me what I ate when I was growing up, or you know what I mean, that kind of stuff, and it's like...
like you ate menudo with chopped stuff?
Yeah, it's like, you think you're going to find a bunch of rice in my past, you know what I mean? Or like, I don't know what they're thinking, but yeah, I get people questioning me on it, like I'm lying, like I would lie to be Mexican.
It's always a weird test.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that's what causes the infighting. Because of all the second generation, third generation from getting tested so much, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't even want to be a part of this.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, something happens, like an incident of racism, and then we're all expected to band together, and it's kind of like, no, you've been telling me for years I'm not one of you.
Exactly.
But now, conveniently,
you've been correcting me the entire time.
Yeah, now conveniently I'm supposed to be part of you again when you need me. Like, you need me to vote a certain way. So you're like, what about you? You're denying your roots? No, you've been denying my roots.
Exactly.
You've been denying my roots my entire life, and now all of a sudden you need my vote.
So now you're tapping.
Yeah, now I'm one of you.
And it is a weird like angst where it's like, why can't you just, when I say that I am Mexican, why can't you just say, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
One time, I had somebody, asked me what I was. Another Latino had asked me what I was. And when I talk to other Latinos, I'll usually just say Chicano or Mexican American. So, instead of saying Latino. If I'm talking to a white person, I'll say Latino a lot of times just because that's what they're familiar with. But one time I was talking to another Latino, and they asked me what I was, and I said I was Chicano. And then a white guy chimed in. And he was like, this was the most annoying thing he could have said. And what he said was, when you travel a bit more, right there, you're being offensive. You know what I mean? You're like, when you travel a bit more, you'll find out that what you actually are is Latino. And I felt like, do you think you're teaching me that I'm Latino right now? I'm talking to
all right, Michelle Pfeiffer, coming into my classroom trying to tell me about
what's next?
My own
karate?
history.
You know what I
mean? So on the coffee wrap up, guys, Tyson is mean as he is on Facebook. Read his statuses in his voice and you'll get the point. Everyone has their own route. Not all Latinos are the same. Resentment is a big deal. Check yours. Check your resentment.
Yeah, ask yourself what you're resentful about and try
Maybe
to
it's not check your privilege, it's check your resentment.
Yeah, check your
resentment, right?
It's the new check your privilege.
Yeah, and don't hold it all in, guys. Let it out every now and then. Don't hold it. It's okay to say that not everything's okay.
Break down in Billings, Montana.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, it's beautiful.
In front of a bunch of other comics, and scratch your own face and have it bleed for a while in front of everybody while you're holding weed in your hand. The entire
Is that what you were doing?
Yes, I
that was the other thing. You stopped everybody from smoking. No, I've got to say this.
No, it was just some weed that Sean McBride had given. and I was holding it all fucking night. Like at some point, that's when I scratched my face, and then I looked like a maniac even more because I had blood running down my face.
They're like, what did he do to himself?
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. 5150.
So if you're gonna break down anywhere, break down in Billings, Montana. It takes over 38 hours to get to know somebody. And Thai Rivera is a good friend of mine. Thank you guys. This has been Stuff with Nick. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ty, again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good night.